Bante, maybe since the topic today is about tradition of Tianhua versus Buddhism, maybe you could just elaborate, although we don't have a guide. I mean, maybe you could just explain to us the difference between the tradition versus Buddhism.
It's not so simple, because to explain that, I have to talk a bit about the history of China, the culture, the customs, and how that crept into Buddhism. So I'm not going to be able to tell you that in 5 minutes. But there are some things like, I don't know exactly what is the practice here in Indonesia, but like in Malaysia, I think probably here also you burn paper money, right? So why do you do that? That is not Buddhism. In fact, when I was young, my parents were supposed to be Buddhist. But whenever my mother had problems, she would go to a Taoist temple and pray, Tiam Hyo, burn the incense and all that and pray. And I went with her. You know, I've been to the Catholic Church. So I went to this Chinese temple. I see all their gods with long hair, with long tongue. Really turned me off. I thought, if this is Buddhism, I don't want to be a Buddhist when I grow up. I want to be a Catholic. So coming back to this burning that paper, you know, it's a Taoist belief that after a person dies, the spirit will wander for many days, looking for the road to rebirth. And there are many roads to rebirth. So some good, some bad. The good one is that you get a rebirth in heaven or as a human being. And the bad one is you get rebirth as a ghost or an animal, or you go to hell, Naraka. So according to Chinese belief, there'll be a lot of spirits trying to distract you, and distract this dead being from going to a good rebirth. You want to bring you to the ghost rebirth or animal rebirth or hell. So they believe that you burn paper money, ginchua, that when you burn this silver money, that you will go over to the other world. And then when these ghosts and spirits, they see the money, they are greedy. They will start trying to grab all that money. So in the meantime, your dead relative can not disturbed by them, can go off and find a good road to rebirth. So that is their belief. That's why you see they burn that paper money the whole night. The other thing is, you know, when they take out the corpse from the house, and everybody cries, and then they take out the coffin. So before they nail the coffin, they ask the family to turn their backs, look the other way, cannot see, afraid after chong tiok, that's not. Kena chong. So there's a pantang. There's a pantang, you have to turn your back. But where does this come about? According to one old monk, and I quite believe him, he says that in the olden days, if the family is very rich, when that person dies, they put some of his gold and silver and all his precious things into the coffin. So these caretakers, they ask the family to turn away. So before they nail down that coffin, they'll pocket some of the gold. So some of these beliefs, actually there's no basis. Okay, and somebody wanted to ask a question?
Bhikkhu, in Buddhism, do we believe in heaven and hell?
Oh yes, yes.
Can you elaborate?
Excuse me, but before I proceed. A monk is called a bhikkhu by the Buddha, and the meaning comes from the word big. This word big crept into English, and it means beg. So a bhikkhu is a beggar, a mendicant monk. So a lay person should not call a monk a bhikkhu. Only the Buddha calls a monk bhikkhu. Lay people call a monk Bante.
I apologize.
No. So, okay. In Buddhism, as far as the earliest texts are concerned, there are 5 destinations of rebirth. These destinations of rebirth are called Gati, G-A-T-I, Gati. And these 5 destinations, 2 are happy destinations, heaven and human rebirth, and 3 are woeful destinations. The happy destinations are called Sugati, from the word Sukha, Gati. And the woeful destinations are Duggati, from Dukkha, Gati. So the Duggati is ghost, animal and hell realms. Now, have you ever wondered why in other religions also talk about heaven and hell? Not only Buddhism, Christianity, Islam, Hinduism, most religions talk about heaven and hell. Why? Because most religions you have holy men. Holy men are those who meditate, and they meditate so hard that their divine eye opens, and they can see the heavenly eye, they can see heaven, they can see hell. So because of that, they say heaven and hell exist. So it has come down from various religions. Only thing is, their psychic power is different. Some are stronger, some are not so strong. So like the Buddha is one of the strongest, so he could see a lot of things. And also very far into the past, and also into the future, the Buddha said he could see. So there's a lot of things that the Buddha said that now slowly is verified by science. One of the things the Buddha said that other religions don't say is that the Buddha said time has no beginning and time has no end, and space is boundless. Other religions, they always say time has a beginning, and in the beginning God created the world, right? But Buddha said time has no beginning and time has no end, and space also is boundless. And now this is verified by Professor Stephen Hawking. I think many of you know, right? This is something an ordinary mind cannot imagine. That time has no beginning and time has no end. Most people, we think inside the box, right? So when you think inside the box, you think, oh, time must have a beginning. Since everything has a beginning, time must have a beginning, right? But strangely enough, Buddha is the only one who said that time has no beginning and no end. And he said one more thing that scientists have not been able to verify. Buddha said, you can develop your consciousness until it expands and until it is boundless. But science have not been able to verify, because scientists have not been able to expand their mind. Another thing the Buddha said, which is actually, the thing about it is actually amazing. The Buddha said, world systems expand and contract. World systems expand and contract. What he means is that, like in our galaxy, the stars, the Buddha said, there's a time when the galaxy expands, meaning that the stars move away from each other. The galaxy expands. But it will come to a certain limit, and then later it will come shrink. Now scientists observe, actually our galaxy, the stars are moving away from us. But the scientists don't know whether it will come to a stop or not. But the Buddha says it will come to a stop and then it will collapse. That's why Like in Christianity, they say that the world will be destroyed by fire. But they don't explain how it is destroyed by fire. But the Buddha actually explained. He said that now we have one sun in our solar system. After a long time, must be when the stars are contracting, after a very long time, another star will come into our solar system. So when another star comes, it's too hot, all the beings will die, all the plants will die. Then because the stars are collapsing, slowly a third sun will come into our system. And then slowly the rivers will dry. And then after a long time a fourth sun will come, the lakes will dry. Fifth sun will come, then the ocean also becomes shallower and shallower. When the seventh star appears, then the world, this earth will burst into flames. So the Buddha has explained very scientifically. And Buddha says that this system where the world expands and contracts is from beginning of time until eternity. It's always like that. It's not that somebody suddenly created the earth, Mother Earth. No. Now we hear about the Big Bang and all this black hole and all this. So I guess when the stars collapse, they'll come together and form a big mass. Maybe they call it the black hole. After a long time, it will just explode and throw off all the suns and form again. So it's a continuous cycle. It's like that. And the Buddha also says everything in this world is dependently arisen. It arises through conditions. Can you tell me anything you see in this world that appeared suddenly? Nothing appears suddenly. Everything was created. For example, you see this table. This table was made in a factory. And where did it come from? It came from the wood. And where did the wood come? Come from the forest. And where did the trees in the forest come from? From conditions. Because we have sunlight, we have water, we have oxygen, we have earth and all that. Now it created the tree. And the tree came from these conditions. And then if you look in each one of these conditions, where did they come from? Also from something else. So everything in the world is changing. And this change brings about other things. So this is the principle of dependent origination. Actually, Buddhism is very profound. So profound that our parents and our grandparents didn't know. They call themselves Buddhists, but they actually don't understand Buddha's teachings because it's so deep. You all know Chinese or not? There's a sentence that means talking rubbish, speaking nonsense is what? Wu shuo ba tao. Yes or not? You know? Wu shuo ba tao. What is Wu? Wu is foreigner. Shuo is say. Ba tao is Eightfold Path. The Buddha's teachings is about the Noble Eightfold Path. That is the path out of dukkha, out of the cycle of rebirth. So when Buddhism came into China, the Indian monks taught the Buddhism, taught about the Four Noble Truths, the Eightfold Path. So our Chinese didn't understand. They talking rubbish. Wu shuo ba tao, foreigner speaking Eightfold Path. Yes or not? So nowadays we don't know. We just say somebody is talking rubbish. We say Wu shuo ba tao. Have you all ever wondered what is God in Buddhism? The Buddha in the Buddha's teachings, he didn't talk about the Creator God. Why? In Buddhism, God is not a being sitting up there with a long white beard looking at you. You go to heaven, you go to hell. No. In Buddhism, God is not a being. God is a force. that made this world, that governs this world, that controls this world. What is this force? In English we say Mother Nature, right? In Bahasa, I guess you'd say Kodrat Alam. In Taoism they call it the Tao. The Tao is something that creates a whole universe. All the million things are supposed to be born from the Tao. And the Tao Te Ching, it starts off with the Tao that can be described is not the eternal Tao. So that Tao actually is to them is God. Because you really think about it, God cannot be a being, right? God cannot be if God is a being, who made that being, right? God is something that cannot be described. That's why even in Islam also they say God cannot be described. And Taoism also they say that Tao cannot be described.
Yeah, Bante, I have a question about that Buddhism have many sectarian, like the Theravada, Mahayana, also the Tibetan Buddhist, the Tantrayana, also like the Maitreya also, the claim of Buddhism. A lot of things, I think a lot of sectarian in Buddhist. How do you see about that phenomena?
If you want to know, you have to study the history of Buddhism. Nowadays, Buddhist books, Buddhist texts, there are many. For example, in Mahayana Buddhism, they have a lot of texts, a lot of books. But all the various sects of Buddhism agree that the earliest discourses of the Buddha are what we call the Nikayas. Digha Nikaya is the long discourses of the Buddha. Majjhima Nikaya, Samyutta Nikaya, Anguttara Nikaya. These four in Mahayana Buddhism, Chinese Buddhism, they call it Ahanching. So these set of books, nobody disputes is the Buddha's words. Everybody accepts it is the Buddha's words. Only thing is, you see, like Mahayana Buddhism started 500 years after the Buddha passed away. So Mahayana texts, if you read their books, they always talk about Ta Cheng, Xiao Cheng, great vehicle and small vehicle. So they call us Theravada, Xiao Cheng, small vehicle. Hinayana, Hina is low, and they are Maha, great. So this division came about 500 years after the Buddha passed away. During the Buddha's time, because the Sangha of monks were united under the Buddha, there was no talk about Ta Cheng, Xiao Cheng. That's why the earliest texts are the Pali texts. These Pali texts, just now I mentioned the four Nikayas, they never talk about Ta Cheng, Xiao Cheng. They only give the Buddha's teachings. So from there you can understand that these Mahayana texts surfaced 500 years after the Buddha passed away. In fact, in the biography of one of the earliest Mahayana monks who wrote many of these books, his name is Nagarjuna. And in Chinese they call him Long Su Pusa. And they asked him, how come formerly we didn't have such books? Now you claim these are the Buddha's teachings. Where did they come from? They asked him. He said he went into the ocean and then he took out these books from the ocean. He said the Buddha hid the books in the ocean. But unfortunately, he forgot, during the Buddha's time there were no books. During the Buddha's time there were no books. All the Buddha's teachings were transmitted orally. Nobody knew how to make books at that time. In fact, transmitting the teachings by word of mouth was a very good means of transmitting, because at that time the Sangha of monks numbered maybe 100,000, a few 100,000. So if, say, like 10 or 20 people want to start teaching wrong teachings, there are only 20 of them, but the monks, there are a few 100,000 of them all repeating the earliest discourses. So it's not easy to change the teachings. But when you have books, it's different. You can copy books and copy books and copy books. So that's why you can see that the Mahayana texts are later And then Tibetan Buddhism started 1,200 years after the Buddha passed away. 1,200 years. So they have mixed more of the what we call external sect teachings. Some of these different teachings in India crept into Tibetan Buddhism. That's why Tibetan Buddhism, they have a lot of mantras. Cho are mantras. These mantras are very powerful words. They have no meaning, but they are very powerful. Sometimes you can do things that a person will need psychic power to do. But if you use these mantras, then you can do. For example, this Nagarjuna, one of the fathers of Mahayana Buddhism, in his biography, he said that before he became a Buddhist monk, he was practicing this Hinduism, and he used this mantra. And he and 3 friends, they used to go into the king's palace, and they used the mantra to make themselves invisible. They chant the mantra and nobody can see them. And then they went into the king's palace to disturb the king's wives and all that. So after that, the king ordered his soldiers, he heard from his advisor how they did it. So the king asked the soldiers, whenever if the wives scream, they go in there with the swords and simply slash, even though they don't see anybody. So this man, Nagarjuna, 3 of his friends were killed, and he prayed for his life, and he said that if he came out alive, he'll change. So he managed to come out alive. Then after that, he changed, and he became a Buddhist monk. So you see, these mantras are very powerful. So they have kept into Tibetan Buddhism and other things also, like Tantric Buddhism. Tantric Buddhism came from Tantra Yoga, and it's one of the things that made Buddhism die off in India, because this teaching is that the teacher can make love to the disciple. So this type of teaching is dangerous. So because it crept into Tibetan Buddhism, so it affected Buddhism's reputation. Slowly Buddhism died off. You see, the behavior of the Sangha of monks is extremely important, because the monks are the fathers of the Buddhist religion. So if they behave properly, they follow their precepts, and the Buddha made many precepts. As far as we Theravada monks are concerned, we have 227 precepts. In fact, it is almost impossible to keep all of the precepts. Very difficult. But many of the precepts the Buddha formulated to uphold the reputation of the Sangha of monks. Sometimes you could say it's not necessary, but it was so strict because the Buddha wanted to have a good reputation for the monk. But when the Buddha was about to pass away, he realized that in the future it would be very difficult to uphold all these precepts. So even without being asked, the Buddha told his disciples that in the future, if the Sangha of monks want to abolish certain of the minor precepts, the Buddha said they can do so. So these precepts are extremely important to a monk to uphold, because if a monk upholds the precept and practices the holy path, meditate and all that, people will revere the monk. Like in Thailand, the forest monks are very much respected. But you see what happened in South Korea? Sometimes, I think you have seen in the newspapers, some big temple in South Korea, the monks fight with each other, all because of money. So now in South Korea, Buddhism has come down very much. Even though about 50% of the population are Buddhist, another 50% have converted to Christianity. But Christians, they are doing very well. Buddhists are not doing well in Korea because the monks are not practicing well. In fact, when I talk about these Chinese traditions and Buddhism, I will explain how Buddhism changed in China, and then the monks have become more like priests rather than ascetics. During the Buddha's time, monks were ascetics, were recluses. They stayed in the forest. They practiced meditation and they attained psychic power and all that, and that's why they were very much revered, venerated. But later, the monks in China, they became like priests, doing a lot of chanting. And so, and in the process of doing all this chanting, they collect money and all that, so people look down. That's why generally Chinese people don't have respect for Buddhist monks, right? Especially those Chinese who gamble. They see the monk all bald, they think up to their pocket also become bald. Okay.
Bante, I want to know what is the purpose of reincarnation, the rebirth.
Say again.
The purpose of reincarnation, the rebirth. What is the purpose? Is it to purify the soul, to advance the soul?
There is no purpose. When you say purpose, it implies that somebody did something to get something. But this is a natural process. It is not made by anyone. So it is a natural law of life that beings that we evolve slowly. Just like Darwin's theory of evolution, right? Beings also evolve. So this is spiritual evolution. Every time we come, there are many things we learn in life, but we are not perfect. So because we are not perfect, we have to, our will to live is still very strong. Every being, we have not enlightened yet. We have this ego, this self. And this ego is something that nature built into every being to protect yourself. You see all the animals and all that, they fight and kill. Why? Because they want to protect themselves, right? So when you have this self, you want to live. At the moment of death, the will to live is very strong. You are not willing to die. So because of the will to live is so strong that the moment you die, it brings you to rebirth. Actually, as I said just now, the Buddha's teachings are extremely profound. What we know about the world, we only know through our eyes, through our ears, our nose, our tongue, our body touch, and our thinking, our six senses. And these six senses, we think we see, but actually we don't see. Different beings see differently. Scientists now say what you see and what a bee sees is different. A bee, his eye is tuned to look for flowers. So he flies around, he can detect flowers. And you are standing there, he may not even notice you. Right? But man's eyes are different. So each being, our eyes, see things differently. So we see the world, we think we understand the world, but actually we are deluded. We are deluded. Have you ever thought of your body? We look at this body and I think, I am this handsome man, this beautiful girl, right? Science tells you that your body is made up of cells, trillions and trillions of cells in your body, right? Most of the cells are live cells. Some are dead cells. Dead cells make your hair, your nails, your outer skin, some of your bone and all that. So whether it's live cell or dead cell, when you analyze a cell, what is a cell made up of? It's made up of atoms and molecules. But molecules are also atoms, right? When you analyze atoms, which makes up your whole body, now they realize atom is like the sky. When you look into the sky at night, what do you see? Most of it, 99.999% is empty. You see a star here, a star there, a moon, a comet, an asteroid. But 99.9999% of space is empty, you know. An atom is just like that. Inside an atom, you have these electrons moving, and you have these protons, neutrons. Now they say you have mesons, you have photons, and these particles are not even exactly solid, you know. Some of them, sometimes they can detect them, sometimes they suddenly disappear and then reappear somewhere else. So now scientists also kalang kabut, you know. They have the wave theory, the quantum theory, and all these theories about matter. So you think about it properly. The cells, the atoms which make up your body is 99.99999% empty. So you are actually empty, you know. Yeah, the whole body is actually empty. You are no different from the air around you, right? Then why you see yourself as this handsome man or this beautiful girl? Yeah. Now, slowly, scientists are beginning to understand that this emptiness is actually consciousness. It's not really emptiness, it's consciousness. And when this consciousness goes into motion, is activated, then you see, like a dream, you see yourself. Now you see yourself as a human being. Another lifetime you see yourself as some other being. That's why the Buddha said consciousness is like a magic show. Toa hi, tai he. So the whole world actually is created by consciousness. Something that Hindu saints said 5,000 years ago. Hindu saints said that you are pure consciousness. So to understand your real self, you must go inside. Go inside to the source of your knowing, to the source of yourself. So we are living in a dream world, actually a virtual reality. Yeah. And this world is actually programmed into your mind. Just like a computer, when you open a computer, what comes out on the screen depends on your program, right? So, exactly. What we see, what we hear, everything is programmed into our mind by karma. Karma is intentional action. When we do something with intention, purposely, you are programming into your mind something. For example, I hate this person, I kill him. That is imprinted in your mind. So because of that, it conditions what appears in your world. So you have a very pure mind, you have a very good mind. When we die, what conditions the world that you see? You see, when a person dies, what happens? The doctor comes and see, oh, no more breathing. Takes his pulse, no more pulse. So the doctor says, oh, this person has died. But not necessarily, that person has died. Why? Because sometimes, one day later, that person wakes up. Sometimes 2 days later, that person wakes up. But the Buddha says there is a sure way to know whether that person has died or not. The Buddha says when a person dies, 3 things stop. One is the body heat. Second is consciousness. Third is jiva, vitality. Mandarin you can call qi, the energy, totally gone. So these 3 things, when a person actually dies, these 3 things stop. So out of these 3 things, consciousness you cannot tell. This vitality, life also you cannot tell. Only the body heat you can tell. So if your relative, your mother or your father passes away, normally we Chinese, we keep 3 days or 5 days or 7 days. Why? Just in case lah, after 2 days wake up. We'll keep longer, safer. So now, since the Buddha says that when a person really dies, that person grows cold. So easy lah, you just feel the body, whether it's cold or still warm. If it's warm, don't go and burn, don't go and bury. Wait until it's cold. If it's cold, you won't revive again. So boleh bakar. Now, the other thing is, when the doctor says that a person has died, like one of our Buddhists in Penang, she told me the mother died of cancer. You know, when a person dies of cancer, the last minutes are very painful, right? Very painful. So when she died, the face showed a lot of pain. So the doctor said she died. But 1 hour later, this girl told me that the mother's face changed, and became very radiant and very happy face. So that shows that even though the doctor said that she died, she actually did not die. The consciousness still going on. Another hour or 2 hours or 3 hours. So during that time, what that person is dreaming of, is conscious of, you have no control. It's not like some people say, oh, I want to chant Namo Amitahut, Namo Amitapho, then I can go to the Pure Land. After some time, your mouth cannot chant already. After some time, you can't hear, you can't think of anything already. So those last moments are conditioned by your karma. If you have a very good heart, a very pure heart, a very compassionate heart, those last thoughts you think are all good thoughts. Those thoughts will determine your rebirth. So you are always thinking of good thoughts, then that will condition your world. But if a person is, say, like a very greedy, violent person, so his last moments, he will dream of himself in a world where every being is violent and greedy and all that, maybe an animal world. So he'll be reborn as an animal. So our everyday mind is very important, our everyday mind. Because in one of the discourses of the Buddha, a cousin of the Buddha called Mahanama, he came to ask the Buddha, he said, Bhagavan, I was thinking one day, suppose I die a tragic death. Suppose, say, like a horse carriage knocks me down, or I'm beaten to death by bandits, or I'm attacked by tiger. Now some people think the last moments you are very frightened. Maybe you go to a bad rebirth. And the Buddha said, don't worry, Mahanama. The Buddha said, for a long time you have practiced the Dhamma. And the Dhamma will bring you to a good rebirth. I think what the Buddha was trying to imply is that our everyday mind is very important. Your everyday mind is your natural frequency. So if your everyday mind is very peaceful, like people who meditate, who study the Dhamma, who follow the spiritual life, they are not greedy. When you are greedy, your mind is agitated. So such people, they have peaceful thoughts, so that will bring them to a good rebirth. So even though your last moments may be violent, but at that time, even though you die, you're frightened. But after some time, you're no more conscious of the outside world, right? For the next few hours, you go into your own world. You go into your natural frequency, and that will condition your rebirth. So our everyday mind is extremely important. So preparing for death is a long process. You cannot say, oh, somebody is going to die, give him the blessing when he's dying, and all this is not all that blessing doesn't work. It's your everyday mind. You go into your own world. So we create our own world.
Related to your last point, so if we pray for our relative, sometimes we serve food, in tradition, cook food. Either sometimes we can serve meat, or others don't, just serve fruits or whatnot. Is that something of a Buddhist teaching, or is it just of a tradition?
That is either tradition or Taoism, because in Taoism and Chinese tradition you have this Sanji Pai, these spirit tablets you put in the house and you pray. And we Chinese used to think and behave as though that spirit tablet, that our ancestors actually stay inside there. Sometimes pray to that for assistance, and we offer them food and all this thing. But in the Buddha's teachings, they have already gone for rebirth. So all that tablets and all that is no use. But there is one discourse where a Brahmin came to ask the Buddha. He said, Lord, we Brahmins have a custom, when our relative passes away, we offer food offerings to the departed. And after offering the food offerings, we burn them. We Chinese also a bit similar, isn't it? Qing Ming, All Souls Day, we go to the cemetery, we clean the grave, then we offer some food. But the difference is that we take home and makan. Yes or not? They burn, they take home and makan. So he asked the Buddha, he said, actually, do they get, our departed relatives, do they get the food offering or not? The Buddha said, it depends on where they are reborn. If they are reborn in heaven, they won't get, and they don't need also, right? If they are reborn as a human being, also they won't get. If they are reborn in hell, also they won't get. If they are reborn as an animal, also they won't get. Only if they are reborn as a ghost, they can get. So the Buddha did not explain why, but this man asked further. This man said, suppose my relative is not reborn into the ghost realm. Then the Buddha said, even if this particular relative is not reborn into the ghost realm, it is most likely that you have other relatives in the ghost realm. They will get it. So then the Buddha also said, even in the extreme case where you don't have any relative in the ghost realm, you will get the merit because you have done a good deed. So now the question is, why only ghosts can get? To my thinking, it's because ghosts are the only ones that can come back. And very often they come back. We Chinese believe that if your relative passes away, 7 nights later, he will come back. Everybody very excited. And very often they actually come back. But not necessarily on the 7th night. Sometimes after 1 night, sometimes 2 nights, 3 nights. And when they come back, they let you know how you can hear footsteps, but you don't see anyone. Sometimes you hear the door opening, closing, you don't see anyone. Sometimes the lights can't come on by themselves. Sometimes even the fridge also opens. So, why is it that they want you to know that they come back? Because they need your help. I have a friend who about 4 or 5 years ago, his mother passed away. And then as normal, they keep the corpse for a few days, maybe 5 days or 3 days. After that, he buried. One day after burial, the mother came back, entered the sister's body and spoke to him. And the mother, he told me that the mother spoke, the voice just like the mother, the way the mouth moved also just like the mother. And he said the mother said that she has come back because she has something important to say. and she says she's sorry that she has to inconvenience the daughter, because she says she knows it will make the daughter very tired. But she said that she has no choice, that she has to speak now. Later she has no chance to speak. So she said that she's suffering, that she's hungry, and she said that she comes back to her own house also cannot enter the house. You know, we believe that house has got this house spirit. In Cantonese, it's got Tei Chi Kung. So when that woman was alive, she was the owner of the house. Now she has become a spirit. Now the house deity don't recognize her as the owner. Tak boleh masuk. Tak bisa masuk. So she came to tell the son, hoping the son can help. But this son is a bit ignorant, not a very knowledgeable Buddhist. So he told the mother, Mo Pin, he said, can't help it. He told the mother, you see where it's bright, you walk. Where you see it's dark, you don't go. So the mother realized that this son doesn't know how to help her, so the mother left. So you see, I have another supporter in Penang. His wife used to come to the temple to make offerings, and he would not step in. He would just bring the wife to the temple, and then 2 hours or 3 hours later, he'll come and pick up the wife. So later he got sick until he vomited blood. So he was afraid that he would die, and so he made a vow that if he lived, that he would change his character, that he will come to the temple and learn about the Buddhism and all this thing. So he survived, and then he started to come, and he came to see me regularly to ask about the Dhamma. He had a lot of questions, so I taught him the Dhamma. Then after a few months, Chinese New Year came. And Chinese New Year time, the sister from Kuala Lumpur came back to Penang to visit the mother in the old house. And when she came back to the house, a ghost entered her and started calling for the brother's name, this devotee of mine. So the mother got shocked. The mother, he said that he is hungry. He said that his body is in pain. So he called his brother's name, asked for help. So the mother asked him, "Who are you?" So he mentioned his name. Actually, her son. 10 years ago, he died at the age of 20-something. He used to mix with bad company and drink and all that. So one day he was drunk, came back on a motorcycle, accident. Lorry went over his body and he died. So that was 10 years already. So the mother didn't know what to do. The mother told him, "You please go back. You go back from where you came. Wherever you came from, you go back." So he realized the mother also cannot help him, so he left. So later this devotee of mine told me. So he told me the brother died 10 years ago. Then I told him, "You see, 10 years your brother never looked for you. Now you're interested in the Dhamma, he comes to look for you because he thinks there's a hope. Somehow you can help him." So I told him he needs your help. You, for the next few nights, you light incense, you pray and you inform him that you will do some dana on his behalf and give him the merit. So the next 3 nights, he lighted the incense and and he told the brother. After that, I told him to go to various temples where there are monks and offer what? Ghosts need 2 things. One is food, the other one is clothes to wear. So he went to these various temples. I offered food and offered some robe or some cloth, and transferred the merit to the brother. So after that, the brother didn't come back. So you see, even after 10 years, When they are suffering, they still come back. I also heard of one case, after 15 years also came back.
So, Bante, if the concept is the ghost or the spirit still the same people, the demons, the same.
You see, when we talk about ghosts or I talk about spirit, they have a body. A lot of people don't realize that spirits also have body. It's only our eyes cannot see. Different frequency, so our eyes cannot see. But sometimes dogs can see. That's why dogs howl at night. And then people who have seen ghosts, they say they resemble the person as a human being. For example, in Malaysia, during the Japanese occupation, when the Second World War, the Japanese caught some people, they want to get information, so they torture them, cut their flesh and all that, and put salt. So after they died, later the place is haunted. So when people have seen their ghosts, they also see the marks of the body cut. So they still have a physical body, just that it's a fine body we cannot see. But because they have psychic power, sometimes they want to frighten you, they appear in a way that they want. If they want you to see them as beautiful, they control your mind, then you see somebody beautiful. If they want to frighten you, you see something very ugly. So your best protection is meditation. Cultivate your mind to be strong. It cannot control you.
So that Bante, that the ghosts still have the same memories when they live in as human, have the same memory of not?
I guess so. They remember the past life. Maybe they don't remember so many lives. They remember the past life.
Bante, you mentioned meditation. So is that why you have a meditation class tomorrow? Maybe you could talk more about the importance of meditations for Buddhism.
Just now I saw the pamphlet there. This one, Pak Merta Ada, he wrote a lot of things about the benefits of meditation. There are many benefits of meditation. But this meditation tomorrow, I didn't ask for it. It's the people here asked for it. Meditation is one of the best anti-stress medicines. I have a good friend in Australia. He works with terminally ill cancer patients. When a person is dying of cancer, he feels the pain. So they give him this painkiller, but they keep giving him painkiller. After some time, it doesn't work. The mind is only thinking of pain. How much painkiller you give him, also he's thinking of pain. So they have to distract him like 3 ways. Now they found meditation is one. Because when you meditate, you focus on one object. You keep focusing on one object, and then you forget about your pain, right? Another one is Tai Chi. Another one is yoga exercises. So these are the ways to relax and to de-stress. So now in the West, meditation is very popular. Even with busy executives, during their lunchtime, they take a break and they meditate to de-stress. Right? Because if you have too much stress, it's one of the causes of cancer. Then when you de-stress, the natural result is that your health improves. A few hundred years ago, when they didn't have such good specialist doctors, sometimes when people had certain sickness which the doctor could not cure, they would meditate. Meditate until the chi goes. When the chi travels, it clears the blocked parts. And then the cheeks turn red, and they get good health. And then in Buddhism, meditation It's about focusing your mind. Although now there are many methods of meditation, the earliest type of meditation taught by the Buddha, the purpose was to focus your mind. Because our mind is generally unfocused, scattered. So the Buddha said, basically our mind is bright, but because our mind becomes scattered through the six senses, we have six senses. Forms attract our eye to see, sounds attract us to hear, smells attract us to smell, taste, touch and thinking. So when our energy goes out through the six senses, our mind becomes scattered. So when we close our eyes, everything is dark. Yeah. But for these arahants, these Buddha's arahant disciples, the Buddha says when they close their eyes, it's as bright as day. Day and night to them is the same. Always bright, their mind is always bright because their mind is focused. So when your mind is focused, the Buddha says that for ordinary people, we have 5 things that envelop our mind. In Pali it's called Pancha Nivarana. Pancha is 5. Nivarana is hindrances, 5 hindrances. And these, what are these 5? The first one is sensual desire. Sensual desire. The second one is ill will or anger. Third one is sloth and torpor. Fourth one is restlessness. Fifth one is doubt. These 5 things, in some people, you see it's very pronounced. For example, sometimes you find a newspaper, an old man rapes the granddaughter. Why? Sensual desire, very strong. And sometimes you see a young man quarrel with the father, he take the parang and slash the father because he cannot control his anger. His anger is like an animal's anger. Once it goes up, cannot control. So the only way to control is meditation. When we meditate, for such people, it's very difficult to meditate because they've allowed their mind to be very scattered. So it takes a lot of effort to train the mind. That's why meditation is one of the very difficult things to do, but also one of the most beneficial things to do. If your mind is focused, people want to do this Kong Tao, black magic and all that, tak boleh. And you go anywhere, you go to a haunted place, also the ghosts dare not disturb you. Because you see your mind very strong, you're like a strong man. So there are very many benefits of meditation. But in Buddhism, the purpose of meditation is that if you focus your mind, then your IQ goes up very high. You look at all the people with very high IQ, their concentration is first class. You all know about Albert Einstein. You give him a long mathematical problem, you need a calculator. He doesn't, he closes his eyes, he does all the calculation inside the computer here, and they write down the answer. If you don't have such good concentration, how can you do all the calculation in your mind? Yes or not? So this is a very good result of meditation. When your IQ goes up, you can see things very clearly. So that's why when the Buddha was enlightened, he wanted to gather disciples. He looked for those people who had attained this one-pointedness of mind. Then when he went to them, he just discoursed to them, sometimes 1, sometimes 2 discourses. Straight away they became enlightened. So easy to become enlightened if your mind is focused. If your mind is not focused, what in Malaysia you call dungu. Yeah, I don't know what you call. Is it dungu? Bodoh? So you want success, that's the way to success. Clear mind, high IQ. You see some people, if the mind is not very clear. When you have to make a decision, you have to decide A or B or C or D. Blur, blur, I don't know how to decide. But your mind is very clear, and straight away you know which is the best decision to make.
Master, I want to ask whether any relationship between Feng Shui and Buddhism.
Feng Shui came from Taoism, I think. Came from Taoism. And Feng Shui, the principle is that your luck is influenced by this Feng Shui. How the structure of your building, how your door is situated and all that. To give you a simple example, suppose you have a Chapji law, this crossroad, intersection crossroad, and you build your house in the center of that crossroad. What happens? These spirits, they fly, that's the highway, they fly. Suddenly they find this building blocking them, they're annoyed with you. That's enough. Who is this going to block my path? So they want to fix you up, give some problem. So Feng Shui actually does work, does work. If it doesn't work, who wants to look for a Feng Shui master? Yes or not? But there is something stronger than Feng Shui. That's why if you know the Buddha's teachings, and that is karma vipaka, your karma. You know Cantonese, one so go, one so tai, ji un quan, ji un ke. This is your blessings. If your blessings is high, you are a person with very a lot of merit, a lot of blessings. Then they are scared of you. Because if you have a lot of blessings, and where does these blessings come from? Two things are basic. One is dana, one is sila. Dana is being charitable, being generous, being good to everybody. In Cantonese they say, yao loi chut loi, yao lek chut lek. You have money, you give money. You have energy, you give energy. Whatever it needs to help people, what you can give, you give. So, if you are good to people, that is the dana. Number two is sila. Sila is keeping precepts. Pancha sila, atta sila. You keep precepts. When you keep precepts, you don't harm other beings. For example, you don't kill, you don't steal, you don't commit adultery, you don't lie, you don't cheat, you don't speak coarse, vulgar words and all these things. That is precept. So actually these two is what in Chinese we call Chai Sen. You want the money god. Money god is not praying to some stone or praying to something. This is the real money god. If you keep your, you take care of your dana and your sila very well, then your blessings go up. And your blessings go up, you have this Hu Fa Sen, Hu Fat San, looking after you, protectors looking after you. So, if these spirits want to harm you, they see you have a lot of protectors. They dare not harm you. Because these spirits, they are psychic. What your real person is like inside your heart, they know. That's why have you heard of forest monks, like in Thailand? They go in the deep forest alone, or they go to the dark cave. The last time I went to Thailand, I also went to stay in the forest. When you stay in the forest at night, very dark, no light. And then you are very aware of the moon. The moon is a great friend. When the moon is around, not so frightened. When the moon is not around, you hear the sound of tiger, you hear the sound of wild animals, you don't know whether they'll come or not. So you see, a forest monk, he goes into the deep forest where there are a lot of spirits, where there are a lot of devas and devis, and some of them are fierce. You come into their territory, they are the taiko, you are a newcomer. But if the person is virtuous, you touted, you have merit, you have blessings, they know they won't harm you, they respect you. Why, for example, say suppose there's a very virtuous monk. If the spirit kills that monk, the spirit can kill the monk if he wants to. But he kills the monk is reborn as a bigger deva. Then he has to jaga, this fellow has to jaga. Yes or not? So he's psychic, he knows. This fellow, if I kill him, he's going to be reborn as a ghost. Kill him easily. Yes or not? So our greatest protection is inside, not wearing some, what you call tangkai, talisman and all these things. All that's not guna. Outside things are guna. Inside is a real stuff. Okay? I think we better take a rest. I got to talk again 1 hour's time.
We would like to thank you, Bante, for coming and sharing Dhamma today, and thank you for the members to come. Please stay around and get to know each other, and dinner will be served at 6 o'clock. And like Pa Virya was saying, you guys feel free to stay until when Bante will talk again at 7 o'clock. So thank you once again for coming, and please stick around.